Like always, today's episode is brought to you by our amazing sponsors: gluten-free diet water, premium junk clothing, Williamson wines, and Good Dudes coffee. Gluten-free diet water. Stay hydrated with a refreshing twist, perfect for those health-conscious listeners. Premium junk clothing, for those who love to express their unique style with high-quality fashion pieces. Visit premiumjunkclothing.com and use code EverydayGSD15 at checkout. Williamson Wine, natural artesian wine from Napa and Sonoma. And last but not least, Good Dudes Coffee, veteran-owned by former Navy SEAL Josh Bridges, and where every cup is brewed with passion and dedication to quality. Visit their website at gooddudescoffee.com and use discount code EverydayGSD10 for an exclusive offer. Thanks to our sponsors for supporting the show, and now let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to the Everyday GSD podcast, and we are at sea with the Special Forces Convention. So my guest today, I'm going to call it a rap sheet because that's what it looks like. This thing is so impressive. I'm going to make sure I pronounce your name correct. It's Pete Tingstrom.
Tingstrom, you got it.
Tingstrom, awesome. I'm not going to go over your whole dossier here because that would be the whole show. But I am going to say a few things, and then we're just going to jump right into it.
Sounds
and
good.
I know you're extremely busy because you coordinated a lot of this whole evolution.
About 98% of it.
Yes, exactly. And I will say it's been fun. I got to meet a lot of different guys from different groups, and I haven't met a bad one yet. Yeah, so it's the brotherhood on this ship is pretty fucking badass.
Brotherhood forever, brother.
Yeah, I didn't even see that. I did not get my swag bag though. So
you'll get that.
I have to. I'm gonna circle back to you after the show.
You got it.
You enlisted in the Army. Obviously, as an E1, you made it to E6. Then you got out, so you were a staff sergeant.
Yep.
And then you ended up going through a bunch of schooling. I mean, I've got a list of them there, but you end up retiring as an 05.
That's correct.
You did 3 deployments to Afghanistan, 3 deployments to Iraq, so 6 deployments. You also did special missions were you in Bosnia? Is that right?
I was in Bosnia, yep.
Yep, in
Philippines.
Bosnia, Philippines. You went to Naval War College, which is impressive. We were talking about that in another episode. I have a friend that just graduated from War College, and he's a reservist, but he said it was the hardest thing he's done in his career, and he's been in for like 20 years.
Yeah, they take a 2-year master's program and condense it into 9 months.
Yeah, he said it was tough. Well, shit, let's just jump into it.
All right.
Again, we're at sea right now, so the ship's moving a little bit, but don't worry, you're safe because I was in the Coast Guard. What happened? You decided you wanted to go in the Army when you were a kid. You're like, you know what, I'm not going to go to school because you went in and enlisted. You said, you know, this is the career path I want to go down.
Yeah, it's actually pretty interesting. My dad was a commissioned lieutenant colonel.
Okay.
Special Forces. Originally artillery. He signed me up for ROTC. My first year out of high school, I went to college.
Okay.
At Brigham Young University.
Brigham Young. Shout out to Brigham Young.
The very first day of class for ROTC, they had a picnic. And I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. And the instructor took off his hat and he said, by 0500 tomorrow morning, your haircuts will look like mine. And while all your buddies are sleeping in the dorms, we're going to be out doing physical training. I'm like, one, I'm not cutting my hair off like that, and I'm not waking up that early.
You're like 0500, shit.
Oh, what are you talking? That was the first class I dropped in fear of my dad, who's an officer, and I'm like, this is just not for me. And so I went through that semester, and I was taking 18 credits, calculus, chemistry,
which for those of you who don't know, 12 credits is a full-time student.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, I had 18.
Yeah, no. So I'm just saying, just for those of you who don't know, 12 credits is considered full-time.
Took a little bit too much. I was more interested in girls. I was more interested in skiing, the great snow in Utah. And I ended up that semester, I got accepted on academic warning.
Okay.
Because I was like a 2.4 student in high school.
Yeah.
I get there, 0.51
killing it
GPA. The only class I passed was a ballroom dance class because there was 40 girls in there and that was just 2 guys.
Is that where you met your wife?
Nope, not yet.
Okay.
I was afraid to go home at Christmas to meet my dad.
Yeah.
I dropped ROTC.
Oh,
and
shit.
I had a very poor performance. They put me on academic warning first, probation second.
Yeah.
And my parents said, we're going to allow you to go back, but you're going to retake all those classes that you had unofficial withdrawals or Fs in.
Yeah.
And you don't do well, you're not going to get the support from us.
Right. Which is huge, right?
Yeah, huge. Because I didn't know what I wanted to do in life. I was doing all these civil engineering courses and whatnot, thinking, I'll be an engineer when I grow up.
Right.
Well, actually, it's what my parents wanted me to do.
Right. Right.
So I go back and did much better the second semester. Got, 2.6 GPA or so. I come home.
I mean, it's 100% increase.
It is a much better increase. Passed all my classes this time. Still didn't do ROTC though.
Yeah.
I got home that summer, and my dad had a business on Hill Street in Oceanside, California.
Okay.
And right next door to it, on the other side of the wall, was a recruiting station with Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines. And he's like, we're not supporting you in your college. It doesn't look like you're ready for that yet. And I'm like, what am I going to do? And so he said, I'd go talk to all these guys, see what they have to say. So I visited all of them.
Right.
And the Army and the Air Force had the two best plans. And I'm like, I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And so I ended up signing the dotted line to join the Army.
Right.
With their Army College Fund program to pay for college, get a little maturity, throw a little bit of money in the bank account, and see where life would take me.
Right. So you end up going in. So you graduate boot camp. You're an E1. Or do you graduate as an E2?
Yeah, no, I went in as an E1. If you had a certain amount of college they would make you E2.
Yeah.
I didn't have enough. If I had a full year, I would have been.
Yeah.
In fact, I would have been an E3 if I had my full year, but I didn't get those credits. So, but after basic training, everything I always did, sports and everything, I gave 100%.
Right.
Just not academics.
Right.
And so at basic training, I was like the top guy in my thing. They promoted me to E2 after basic. And at the end of advanced individual training, and I didn't know what I wanted to do either, so I just went infantry.
Right.
11 Bravo.
That's kind of standard when people don't know what they're doing. Yeah. They want to do, and then go in the Army. They're like, oh, infantry, yeah, sure, perfect.
Yep. So that's what I did. And at the end of AIT, I was on the top again.
Right.
And got promoted to private first class.
Okay. So at this point or any time during this time, are you thinking at all about Special Forces?
No.
No.
Even though my dad was.
Right.
I was proud when he came to my graduation and everything, but that was not in my future at the time. My future was get some college or get some military experience and go back be a civilian out in the civilian world. So
you end up leaving. So did you do any deployments while you were enlisted for the
No, I was enlisted 85 to 88.
Okay. So
during that time.
So 3 years.
Yeah, 3
so
years.
You made E6 in 3 years?
No, there's more to that. So
I was like, wait a minute, holy shit.
Yeah, the initial enlistment. I made
not good in school, but you got some other skills.
Yeah. So I made E5 in under 2 years, 1 year and 10 months. And it's because
holy shit.
When you go to Ranger School. So I was really lucky.
Okay. Yeah, walk me through this. Because I got a lot of buddies that are listening to this that are still active, are probably going, what the fuck?
I signed up for the 10th Mountain Division.
Okay.
They were going to go to New York.
Yeah.
Fort Drum was not ready for us. So the very first unit that got activated in the 10th Mountain Division was the 2nd Battalion of the 14th Infantry Regiment. We road marched from one starship at Sand Hill at Fort Benning to another one for our permanent duty station. In basic, one platoon in an open bay. Now I'm in my permanent duty station with 2 platoons in an open bay. 60 Muldoons in one big open room for your permanent duty for 3 years.
Holy shit.
But the beautiful thing about being there was they were trying to prove light infantry. And our command sergeant major, our brigade commander, the battalion commanders, all these guys had combat experience from the Vietnam era. All of them, most of them were Rangers.
Yeah, because you're talking mid-'80s right now.
Yeah, mid-'80s.
Yeah. So we're 10, 15-ish outside of Vietnam. So your Vietnam guys are still like the young. They're still young.
Yeah. Oh, they're the senior leaders in our organization.
Yeah.
So there was a big push for this new concept of light infantry for the Army, and we were the test bed for it. During those Reagan years, there wasn't a lot of money. We were firing blanks, going bang, 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 and live rounds.
Right.
You simulated a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But the beautiful thing about that era and that command team, and to prove the point, we got to go to pretty much any school. I go to Airborne. We were a leg unit.
Right.
But I was at Fort Benning.
You're just signing up for schools and
home
going.
Airborne School, home of Ranger School.
Yeah.
We went to Fort Rucker for air assault. We went to the jungle warfare training in Panama. We went to the northern warfare training in Alaska. We we aggressed against the Ranger students in every phase of Ranger School for post support.
Right.
Which was kind of nice because when I went to Ranger School, I'm like, hey, we're getting ready to be ambushed right here.
Yeah, because you're like, I got the inside. I got the inside scoop
Total
now.
scoop on everything.
Yeah.
Everyone loved me.
Yeah.
And because I knew when everything was going to happen in every phase. And it was so it was kind of like my backyard,
Right.
too, which made it kind of easy. But anyway, I really, really enjoyed my time in the Army. It came time for reenlistment. Of course, all the commanders. In fact, back up a little bit. In Ranger School, I was a corporal when I went, E4.
Okay, E4.
No rank on your uniforms. You're sterile. Everyone thought I was a lieutenant. Everyone thought I was an officer. My company commander of Charlie Company's 2nd and the 14th was a West Point guy. He played football. He's like, you need to be an officer. You need go to the military prep school.
Yeah.
And you need to be an officer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I'm going back to college.
Yeah, you're like, I got another plan.
Yeah, I got another plan. And they pushed it hard. And even when I went to Fort Drum, I was the NCO of the year in 1987. And they sent me to Fort Drum, compete against all the other guys. And, of course, we thought we were the best because we were the first ones activated. Go up there for this big competition. And they put out the red carpet for us to say, go back to Benning and tell them how great it is up here in Fort Drum.
Right.
To realistic, come on up. And, oh, my gosh, the horror stories I heard when I was up there.
I bet.
Yeah, it kind of backfired on them. But anyway, my ETS date was coming up in December. And
So what was your contract? A 3-year contract?
Three and a half. Yeah,
3.5
years. So my dad was SF. I loved what I was doing. And I'm like, I could join the Special Forces and the reserves.
Right.
And do more time. So
what's that 18 group?
18 series.
Yeah.
So 12th Special Forces Group. So my family moved from Southern California to Washington State.
Okay.
Washington State had the 12th Special Forces Group, 3rd Battalion, and Bravo Company, where they had 4 teams in Seattle, 1 team in Spokane, 1 team in Bozeman. So I was going to go to school, to a community college to get back into school again before I
dip your toe
jumped
back
on
in the
that.
water.
Yeah. And so there was a team right there in town.
Yeah.
So I went through an in-service recruiter. I said, I want to go Special Forces. And they approved it. I got out, joined that unit.
So you made that decision while you were active,
Yes.
knowing you were going to get out, but you were going to be reserved, but you wanted to go Special Forces.
Yes,
Okay,
and I was
so
still going to do that.
So you were planning ahead.
Yes.
Okay.
So I ended up getting a Special Forces qualification course date when I went to SFAS, the Assessment Selection, in 89. Then in 90, went to the Q course. I went to an 18 Bravo. Our team, normally they're short medics or commo or one of these other MOSs. Ours was short weapons guy, which is the easiest course to go through. So I kept on dropping out of school for different reasons to go to this 6-month school.
You mean dropping out of college?
Dropping off at college. Now I'm back in college. I'm doing well now.
Yeah.
But the shiny object was SF and any school or anything that would come up. So I go to the Q course, graduate. A class came up for SOTIC, Special Operations Target Interdiction Course, sniper school.
Yeah, sniper school.
No one in the reserves had ever gone before. I was the very first one in entire Army Reserves to go to Fort Bragg for that school. And I'm like, drop out of school again and go on that.
Yeah.
This happens for about 4 years. I get promoted to E6, and I was almost on active duty more than I was in the National Guard.
Because you keep getting activated for your schools and stuff.
My younger brother was a military intelligence officer. He went to Marion Military Institute for their 2-year program, transferred to Washington State, and he already was a 2nd lieutenant.
Okay.
But he had to finish his college in order to go on active duty on that. And he's like, Pete, why are you doing this enlisted stuff? You should be an officer. So now I got my brother hounding me about becoming an officer now. And then I started looking.
So you're hearing it from both directions.
Yes, my dad, my brother. And I'm looking at the pay scale. I'm like, well, yeah, if I'm doing this stuff.
And clearly people are looking at you that are have your best interest and can see leadership in you, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, listen, there's a path for you.
Yes.
This is what you should be doing.
Yes.
You keep getting that nudge.
Yes.
You keep getting that nudge.
And then the next nudge was Washington State University. Hey, we're going to give you a scholarship, pay for everything. You can still use your college fund and GI Bill. And I'm like, really? Oh, okay. I'm making money.
Yeah.
Going to school.
Now I'm getting paid.
I'm getting paid to go to school. And I'm like, absolutely. And my academic changed immensely. I was a 3.85 student.
Well, you were more mature though, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Let's not kid ourselves.
And then that's also at the time I got married, which helped with a little maturity too. Instead of chasing the skirts, I got married in 1991, and ended up graduating Washington State University. I was again top cadet. Loved everything I was doing. I was the cadet battalion commander. I was the George C. Marshall winner with the top cadet of every school. Meets all the cadets from all the other universities around the country. Just a great event that was. And then when I went to, between my junior and senior year, you go to advanced camp to figure out what branch you're going to go. Because at that time, I'm like, actually, back up a little bit more. I have another brother, 4 years younger than me, ahead of me in college now, though.
Right.
And he was doing business management for his degree at Washington State University.
Okay.
I was a business student too. He graduates, starts his business world, and hated it. He worked for Sherman-Williams as a manager, Pizza Hut, all these different
corporations,
things, and hated it.
Yeah.
He was given 7 days paid time off. He was making at that time like $24,000.
You're like, I can get 30 days off a year.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. The back of my mind, 30 days, and all those 3 or 4 day weekends every month.
Yeah.
And wait, 01E. Oh, look at that pay scale. I could get $36,000 a year, $10,000 more than my brother. I'm like, boom, I'm sold. I'm going back on active duty.
So you flip the switch and you're like, I'm going back.
Yep.
And you just did it.
Yep.
So your brother helped you and he didn't
My
even know
brother
it.
didn't even know it. With him, not like he ended up going back to college for his master's and became a teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you now back, I shouldn't say enlisted, you I guess enlist again. So you switch from reserves or did you finish your reserve?
Yeah,
time?
no, I had to get to accept the scholarship because that was part of the problem. Every time something would come up or a deployment,
Right.
you would leave school. Scholarship,
That's
once
it.
you signed the bottom line, I had to leave the reserves at that time, which I really missed. In fact, even one time I went to the National Training Center with them on orders, and they paid for it, but I really wasn't in the reserves anymore.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Oh, because it was so. I love doing that. It was during the summer. I was
like,
off.
you're actually not even on the
No,
schedule,
and
man.
my whole team was like, hey, we got a slot for you. Why don't you come down and deploy with us? I'm like, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Okay, so then you that's the person that's been helping.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
Michelle.
she's awesome.
Yeah, she's
awesome.
great.
So you leave. You're now full-time school. You're done playing Secret Army, like sneaking in and out. And then what happens?
So then it comes branch selection time.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, gosh, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go infantry. I'm going to stay what I'm doing. But now I want to go in the Ranger Regiment.
Right.
I want to challenge myself.
And you're already SF qualified.
Yeah, I'm already SF before. But then I wanted to go and do SF on active duty as an officer.
Right.
But I wanted to touch the Rangers. I wanted to get that experience there in the Ranger Regiment and then go become a Green Beret. My wife had other plans for me.
Right.
She wanted me to become an aviator. And I'm like, what? An aviator? I don't like aviators. They're a bunch of pogues that are back in the rear.
Did I read that
sleeping
on
in
here?
hotels. And I'm like, no, that's not for me. They've dropped me off at the wrong place and made me hump. No, I don't like aviators. I do not want to do that. So I go to advanced camp, Fort Lewis. And again, they do a branch display thing. And every branch is trying to sell you on, you need to be infantry, you need to be MP, hey, military intelligence, we're the best.
Yeah.
Aviation branch walks in. And here comes a guy looking like Tom Cruise.
Yeah, I was just going to say, looking like Tom
White
Cruise.
suit, no headgear, hands in his, he's got it on the side.
Oh, yeah.
He had a hot chick on each side of him, walking in with his Ray-Bans.
The sun is behind him.
Yeah, the helicopters are behind him. I'm like, and my wife was, before this was like, you need to go aviation. And I'm like, he shows up. And he pulls out his wallet, and he's like, man, what am I going to do with all this flight pay this month? And I'm like,
oh, the flight pay got you.
oh, my gosh. I'm like, okay, and not walk anymore? Let me. So I got my brain going. This is about halfway through the summer camp. Well, I ended up being the top cadet in the regiment and had a office call with the commanding general of that region, who happened to be General Daly, one of the plank holders of the 160th Special Operations Regiment.
Yeah.
And he's like, Pete, I see you got your background. We need operation kind of guys background in aviation. We're trying to become a combat arms. We need guys like you in aviation branch. And I was going, my wife, now this general, and
Tom Cruise.
I did ask him, hey, if I don't like it, if this is something that's not for me, can I back out and do what I really wanted to do? And he goes, oh, absolutely. All right, sir. I'll go aviation. And it was lucky because a lot of guys.
But truth be told, that wouldn't have not been able to happen, right? If you didn't like it.
Probably not,
No,
because once
but-
they pay for you, you're 6 years stuck.
Yeah. You're like, hey, I don't like this guy. I want to switch. Yeah. You're like,
It's not happening. Not
that
the
was
money
cute.
to spend.
I don't know who told you that.
Yeah, it's like join the Airborne, learn to fly. No, that's not happening.
Yeah. Okay, so now you're in aviation.
Now I graduate in '94. Go to Fort Rucker, Alabama, for flight school, and same thing. Came up with what aircraft do you want to fly, and people to compete for. Hey, do you want to fly Apaches, Chinooks, Blackhawks, or whatever? And looked at all the different missions, and I'm like, I think I want to be a Kiowa Warrior pilot. I want to be able to shoot, call in artillery, scout forward. I want to be in the thick of it.
Yeah.
And so, I was top of my class. They sent me to the Scout Platoon Leaders course. And then I picked Kiowa Warriors and got Kiowa Warriors.
Yeah.
For my first assignment, they put me to the 82nd Airborne Division at Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
82nd.
82nd.
So I had a guy on the podcast. I'm looking it up right now. I just want to see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, Monty Dennehy. I'm saying his last name wrong. He's a friend of mine. I'm just pronouncing his name wrong. But he was a say the helicopter again.
OH-58 Delta Kiowa Warrior.
Yeah, Kiowa. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was a Kiowa pilot.
Oh, man.
And he was young. And the funny story with him is, so he was going down to pick up the helicopter, and he had to rent a car. And he wasn't old enough to rent a car. So you have to be like 25 or 26 years old to rent a car. But the Army had paid him to obviously go get this helicopter, and he shows up at the car rental place because he's got to drive, and he's with his, one of his enlisted guys that works for him, and in front of them he got denied renting the car, so they had to have his junior rent the car for him because that guy was older than him, so they could go pick up, a multi-million-dollar. yeah. But they won't give him the $30,000
Right.
Geo.
It's like the young guys that aren't old enough to drink yet, but they're out there defending their country.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. Holy
Yes,
shit.
it is.
That's a whole nother show, actually.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, so now you're whipping around in the helicopters.
Yep, loving life. 82nd was so much fun. 18-hour no-notice mission. Bunch of every year we went to JROTC to go support one of the brigades. Rotated through. Every year we would go out to White Sands Missile Range and shoot Hellfires. That was the other thing fun about it. First I wanted to be a Black Hawk guy,
Right.
and help bring operators to the target. But then they have artillery raids and all these other things. I'm like, shooting stuff is a lot more my game.
Right.
So, between 50 cal machine guns, 2.75 inch folding fin aerial rockets, Hellfire missiles, Stinger missiles. Oh, it was so much fun. And then additionally, we would go every year along the border.
Yeah.
So we would do a Joint Task Force 6 mission. We did 1 year in California, 1 year in Arizona, 1 year in Texas. And we flew around doing our scout mission with our mass-mounted sight and our thermal imaging system. And so many guys were coming across the border. We had a lot of rules of engagement with posse comitatus and all this stuff. But a lot of the guys wanted to break from flying. I was a staff guy, so I'd someone didn't want to fly, I'll fly. I want to build up my hours. And because at that time I had a goal to go to the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment at Fort Campbell. But I needed X amount of flight hours to do that.
Right. Did you end up going?
You needed 1,000. Oh, that's a story to that.
Yeah.
1,000 hours and like 100 goggle. And so I quickly built my timeline there in the 82nd.
Right.
Had a wonderful time. Very mission-focused unit. Loved jumping out of airplanes, too. Went to jump master school, and I already had enough jumps that I went straight from my basic bald wings to my star and wreath on it, and did a lot of jump master duties. And but the one thing I didn't like, I liked and I didn't like, is my battalion commander's like, I need an S1. So I ended up being the battalion S1 instead of down the troops doing the platoon leader XO time. And then in 1998, I don't like to do standard stuff. I had a friend going to the Armor Advanced course, and since I was aviation, I always heard that the infantry and the armor had the two best officer advanced courses.
Right.
So I'm like put in for armor because my friend was going there. And Branch is like, yep, you're the top guy. Hey, which one do you want to go to? I'm like, hey, armor. So I go to the armor officer advanced course as an aviator, representing our branch. And I get thrown in this small group. It's only like 5-month school. And, it's just kind of a natural at some things. I was the top guy in that small group.
I'm seeing a trend here, people. I'm seeing a trend here.
So now I'm going to this tactics board for the this tactics board exam. And they're like, we can't have an aviator be the freaking class
the winner
in front of a bunch of armor guys. That'd be embarrassing. So I got second place. I'm like, whatever.
So you gave it to him.
Yeah. After that, I went to the Command Services and Staff School at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. And then, and before I left there, Branch called me up and like, hey, you represented us. Where do you want to go? Anywhere you want to go, any unit you want to go to. I'm like,
really?
Not everyone gets these opportunities.
No.
I had such a stellar career at that point. And so I'm like, you know what? My parents just moved to Colorado Springs, the 4th Squadron, 3rd ACR, Armored Cavalry Regiment's there. I got a younger brother that I really didn't, I left to go in the Army when he was like 2 years old. So I didn't really have much of a relationship with him other than see him at Christmas through the years, every few years. And so he was in high school. And one of my other brothers that was doing the business thing, he was a high school teacher in the same school. I'm like, that would be totally cool. And my wife got pregnant while we were at Fort Knox. So I'm like, all right, I want the 3rd Armored Cavalry Regiment, Fort Carson. And they gave it to me. So I get there, and they were getting ready to get rid of their Cobras for the 58 Deltas. So they're doing a brand new unit fielding thing. So a lot of additional deployments to Fort Hood and all these other train-ups to get qualified for this new unit, writing the SOP. I wrote the tactical SOP for the unit, pulling a lot of stuff from this 21st Cav unit at Fort Hood. Gave me the tactical SOP for every unit in the Army, and I took the best of every unit to come up with our, and I wrote the SOP myself at that particular time. And then we go to Bosnia, deploy for a deployment there.
And this is your first kind of big deployment?
That was my first deployment, yep. And I was the Squadron S4 at that time. It was before I took command of a troop. And that was busy. So now I did personnel side, and now I'm doing logistics. And so I had to get everyone to Pinyon Canyon down south for a pre-train up. We had to take everyone to the National Training Center out there in California, pre-training. And then we go to Bosnia. And now I'm sending stuff all the way to Croatia and Tuzla. It was I enjoyed the TDY because I'd go Advon and set everything up for the ports and where we're staying at Camp Comanche. And then again, that was another deployment where a lot of guys want to take breaks. I'm like, I want to fly. Yeah. So as a staff guy, I flew my ass off and built up a bunch of hours.
And that's not normal, right?
No, not normal for a commissioned guy.
Correct.
Our warrant officers fly a lot.
Yeah.
And so, boom, I get the bug. And I always had the plan to go special operations on the aviation side. So I put in a packet to go to the 160th and get approved. I had a date set in the future after I get back from the deployment. We get back from the deployment. My squadron commander says, hey, I want you to be in the conference room tomorrow morning. What's up, sir? No, just be in the conference room at this time. I'm like, all right. And go to the conference room that next day, and there was about 30 guys in this room. And this guy walks in civilian clothes, throws a video up on the screen. I'm like, oh, man, that looks like fun. He wouldn't tell us who he was with, just some unit east of the Mississippi. And out of everyone in the room, I was the only one that qualified to do this like little mini PT test, swim test the next day. Met him in his hotel. Took like 6 hours of written tests and aptitude and personality, all this stuff. And I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And then I don't hear anything back from this unit for a while. And my warrant officers
And you didn't even really know what this unit was.
I didn't even know what it was.
Yeah.
And they're like, talking to my warrant officers who've been around for a while, they're like, I think I know what that is. I've never known anyone ever make it. And so about 3 months later, I get a call. Hey, we got a slot for you to come. Oh, at that little assessment that I did, they gave me a workout schedule and some things to prep for on the aviation knowledge side of things.
Okay.
I looked at that compared to the 160th prep. I'm like, whoa, what a difference. I'm like, all right, 160th. I can't come to your assessment. I didn't tell them, but I want to assess for this other unit.
Right.
It seemed a lot harder to get into, and that was my whole life.
And
type thing.
and it was probably also because it was a little more secretive.
Yeah.
Or that unknown made you have that little bug that you're like,
big time.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, the 160th is badass.
Absolutely.
I mean, legit fucking badass.
Yes. And I didn't know as much about them as I did, later in my career.
Right.
At that time. And so I go to that assessment, and I'm like, man, this is hard. And they threw you through a ringer. It was a long assessment. You did stuff on the ground first with weight, rucks, running all over the woods, doing navigation, which I had a good background on.
Yeah.
And I'm short.
Right.
My little legs are going. And so, but it's easier to get through the trees and the wickets.
You and me
the
both.
tall
brother.
guys.
You and me both.
I had a blast. And then came the technical side. And I show up at night. We brief these things. And I'm like, wow, I'm briefing this. This is pretty cool. And this aircraft shows up. This sexy civilian aircraft. I'm like, what the heck is this? And I go get in the cockpit. And the Army's very structured with Chapter 9.
With everything.
With
with everything. Let's not
procedures,
get
limitations, everything.
Yeah. Rules.
I'm strapping in an aircraft I've never been in before, throwing on goggles. We do a familiarization flight before we do the night navigation stuff.
Right.
And we have this navigation exam that you have to do plus or minus a period of time. And the aircraft was just cool. And I'd never seen anything like that before. And I'm like, I wonder what this place is. And all this stuff's going in the back of my mind. I'm like, I hope I don't screw this up.
Right.
And was successful. And then the board comes up, and I'm in a dark room, and there's about 40 people in the room. And it was all dark in there except for this front table. And the guy.
It's like a fucking movie, right?
Oh, dude. And I still didn't know what I was assessing for. And this guy, the commander, I'm the commander of this unit. I introduce you to a few other people that are going to ask you questions, and all these psychs were in the back, all these other people that were like watching and recording and going through this whole assessment. I'm like, this is pretty weird. And then prior to it, they give you this mission, and you have to give them an air mission brief based on a certain period of time. Yeah. And so I'm briefing them what I would do, and there was some of the questions there was no right or wrong answer. It was just thinking through how you're going to answer and your reasoning for those answers. Anyway, at the end of the thing, guy stands up. Hey, I'm Colonel such and such, and welcome to this unit. And I'm like, oh my God. I was floored. Yeah. Absolutely floored. And at the end of that, we're all going back to this cabin. All the everyone that was there that got made. Oh, during the assessment selection, it was like the Grim Reaper. We started with, I don't know, 40, 50 guys or so. And before you know it, almost like SFAS, where people like quitting in the middle of the night, or people that just pulled out of for whatever standard they broke, to where we're whittled down to this really small group in the end. And even people that went to the board didn't make the board and didn't make the cut. Right. But the guys that did, and everyone else that came up for that board, were all in this cabin drinking, and it was just the coolest.
Celebrating.
Absolutely, it was so cool. I'm like, that was probably the proudest moment of my life at that time.
That's awesome.
Was that I'm tearing up right now thinking about it. I was so happy. And then I got home to brief my wife, and they tell you what you can and can't say.
How long did this take about?
You talking about the whole process?
Yeah,
or?
from just approximately.
Yeah, we can't talk about that.
It took a while.
Yeah, it took a while.
Yeah, it was.
It wasn't.
I guess my point of asking that question, and I appreciate you answering it like that. I guess my point of this question is, you went through the ringer to do this. Mm-hmm. This was not a
physically and intellectually.
Yeah, because your eyes watered up thinking about how proud you were when you did it, because that accomplishment.
It was hard.
Yeah.
It was super hard. And then knowing that no one had ever known anyone to ever make it before. Yeah. And so
it's not like you can call your dad or call someone and say, "Hey, how was this when you did it?"
Right.
You don't know. This is just like
I had no gauge of that at all.
No gauge.
And so they did a good job briefing me of what I could say, what I couldn't say to not only my immediate family, but even extended family, my parents, friends, neighbors.
You think your dad knew?
etc. No,
No.
he didn't know.
No.
So I get home, I tell my wife, and because we were allowed to tell them, because then they need to know what they can and can't say.
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
Hey,
for
where's
sure.
your husband been? And blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And she was concerned. She thought, "Oh no, you're gonna be in far off lands, and you're not gonna come home one day," kind of thing. This sounds pretty dangerous.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, it's factual.
Yeah, but it was but at that party, people were and the divorce rate, because I saw it in SF.
Yeah.
People were married, people were older, people were wiser. I did ask some of them if you had unit members killed, and can you share more information? And I left there with a very comfortable feeling.
Yeah.
For the National Command Authority of the President to have this unit go do something, they're going to be prepared. They're going to be trained for it.
Yeah.
They're going to be prepared for it, and they're going to be successful.
Yeah.
That's just the way it was, and the way I saw it after
Yeah.
I got to that unit, and
Because you're a shark, right? You're a shark, but you're the teeth of the shark. But you have such a group behind you, the fin, the tail, the structure of the shark that makes the shark go through the water.
Yeah.
And you're the tip of the teeth that is going to do, the work.
And the beauty of it, they were funded, and they had highly selected people. So it didn't matter what background that individual was. That team was amazing, and you did not have to worry one iota if they got on your left or your right, even before you do. Now that I'm in the unit, to go through training and the long process of going through all the training to now be able to go do missions and whatnot.
Because the person to your left and the person to your right did the same thing you just had to do.
Yeah.
And like you said when you were celebrating, because it was such a momentous time in your life, looking back at your career, when you can sit back and go, I know my brother to my right and my brother to my left, they did the same. Yeah. They did everything I had to do this, and I know how difficult that was. So I don't have to look to my right to see if they're doing what they need to do. I just know.
You
just know,
absolutely right. Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
So, your
no
life
confusion.
depends on it. No confusion at all. The mission's going to get accomplished. It doesn't matter whether an HR person, human resources,
whatever,
or a commo person. It doesn't matter. The support network there was amazing. And so.
And how long were you in that uniform?
4 years initially. Now I was a commission guy.
Right.
I found out later that me and this one other guy that made it through, out of all the guys, he's a general officer now. We were the number 9 and number 10 in the history of that unit, commission guys. They used to have warrant officers or senior folks command that element, and they changed the process to where I was the 10th guy ever in this organization, which
so cool.
Just floored me, knowing that. And the training was amazing. Now, my wife didn't like it because I was gone a lot. Out of those 4 years, I was gone over 3 of them. And a lot of it was training. Did all kinds of amazing training.
I can see you looking.
Oh my God!
You want to say it so bad.
I do. The different aircraft we flew. We did research, testing, development, and a bunch of cool stuff. And tested things that Army Aviation ended up getting because we'd get it first. Test it and evaluate it, analyze it, and then of course Afghanistan, the Twin Towers happened right before that, and I knew I was going to deploy.
Obviously.
And so it comes around for my first time deploying. I was in the operations shop, and so I was kind of the OIC of the deployed package. And at that time, we were detailed to another. That's a different story too. To another government agency. So when we first went in,
an alphabet agency.
Yes, an alphabet agency. We were just listening to Perry Blackburn talk about, and I hope you get a chance to interview him. It was an amazing presentation that he gave. He was one of the horse soldiers in Afghanistan at the very beginning, and he told a story. And I was like nudging my wife next to me about this foreign aircraft coming in with a bunch of no idea who they were, with suitcases of cash and like paying warlords and doing
Yeah.
all this stuff in the Wild West before the
Yeah,
conventional guys got in there, 10th Mountain, 101st, etc. And man, it was just so much fun preparing and then operating downrange. And our unit, the Joint Special Operations Command and that organization were really trying to build a good relationship during that time. And so they gave up their forces to help them, train them up really for their element to help do stuff. And it was supposed to only be 90 days. And,
And just like that.
we kept rotating and for a couple years until Iraq kicks off, 2003, I guess.
2003,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And our primary customer that we supported got tagged for that, for the initial infill. And once they got on the ground, they're like, we want those guys supporting us. So we shifted from Afghanistan to Iraq.
Yeah.
And
So did you go to Iraq first or Afghanistan?
Afghanistan first.
Afghanistan
Yeah.
first.
Multiple ones to Afghanistan, and then
Yeah, you did like
Iraq.
what three tours in Afghanistan, and then, but you go Afghanistan then Iraq,
In Iraq, yep.
and then back to Afghanistan.
Did one more in Afghanistan after
Yep,
that.
and then back to Iraq.
Yep.
Yeah, so six tours.
6 tours. And everyone has different. So this goes back to the conventional Army aviation.
Oh,
How
yeah,
many,
yeah.
How many hours they could fly a night or in a month. We didn't have that in this unit. We fly whatever you need to get the mission done.
Right.
And it was, in my prior assignments, 82nd, 3rd ACR, you're trained up for war.
Yeah.
Now we're in war. Now you're executing it every night and doing things that this unit typically doesn't do every day, but now they're doing it every night and multiple times a night because the capture kill guy may not be there.
Don't read that, but you see that name?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I worked with those guys,
Okay.
and when in South America and Central America and Southeastern Asia, but obviously most of them in the aviation world came from
Coming from that community.
correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Them and
As
a couple.
I scratch this off.
them and a couple others because I was at that time I was thinking, man, I'm going to keep doing this.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
going to get out because I was a commission guy. The other branches. Oh, that brings back to the unit. I can only be there for 4 years. I'm a commission guy. I got to go to my ILE. I got to go to do my other staff time to be a well-rounded guy. Blah blah blah. And most of the commission friends that I met, in all the other services, that's all they do. They fly. They fly like our warrant officers do. They're subject matter experts in that.
Yeah, subject matter experts.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I really was sad when my day came to leave. And same thing. Hey, where do you want to go? To the Command General Staff College. And I did research, and everyone said, oh, you want to go to either Presidio in California or the Naval War College in Newport, Rhode Island. And I did more research, and I'm like, oh, man, yeah, I want to go Navy. I got orders to the Navy.
Right.
I mean, it just every time I turn around, most of the time it's like the needs of the Army, this and that.
Yeah.
I was just in a very lucky position to be able to pick stuff in Newport.
Well, it's
was
not luck
fun.
though, right? It's you're in the right place at the right time.
Yeah. The
Right.
timing, the slots.
And the truth is, let's not kid ourselves. Besides, when you were in college and you were like a .000, but when you matured and you started putting effort into it, you excelled at everything you did. You were the top of the class, top of the class, top of the class, top of the class. That's not luck.
Yeah.
That's determination. That's skill. That's heart and grit that makes that other people either just don't want to put the time and effort into do it, or they don't even see that as a goal or an opportunity. And you would push and push and push. Yeah. So it's not luck.
Oh, yeah.
So I got to correct you on that.
So my our marriage, my wife's marriage, I forget how many years we are at that time, but that was a well-needed break. It was a year of hanging out with other bubbas from other branches.
Yeah.
At Army, we became very close-knit in the Army element. One of the guys that developed a relationship, he's a 3-star general now too. Really successful people.
Yeah.
And the Army wanted to make sure, again, the people that they represent in that school represent the Army. And
Correct.
they pick their best and brightest to do that at these sister service schools. So I got the Master's in National Security and Strategic Studies there. Wonderful time. Of course, the Army's bases in the Southeast are like Armpit, Fort Benning, Fort Rucker, Fort Polk, all these Southeast states. And now we're up in the Northeast, a place that I really didn't spend much time at. So you got to go to New York City, go watch the Yankees play, go to Boston, watch the Red Sox, go to all that history that's in the Northeast.
Yeah.
Was incredible. And to have that time off with the family.
Yeah.
It was a lot of reading and studying, and it was a very compressed master's program.
Right.
But, so worth it in the end.
Right.
Then comes the next decision. One of my commanders at that unit that I just left was now one of the battalion commanders at the 101st. And they're getting ready to go for a deployment to Afghanistan for 15 months, one of the long extended ones.
Yeah, 15
and
months.
My wife is like, not only no, but hell no. That was what was best for my career, was to go do that. XO and S3 time, battalion operations and executive officer time in combat with the 101st. And a by name request by this guy who also became a general. And, oh my God, my heart sank. I'm like, I put my family first, because up to that point in my career, I hadn't. I did whatever I wanted to do. She was second fiddle to everything. And now I have a daughter to think about too, and relationship, and she's getting up there in age. And she had a hard time with me being gone from all the birthdays and Christmases and stuff.
Of course.
So it was a career choice. And so the special management division folks up at DC is like, hey, well, we got a slot at U.S. Army Special Operations Command. It's a flying slot, so you're not, sometimes you go to the Pentagon, you don't get to fly.
Right.
There's nothing there but a desk to fly. But Bragg did. They had, in this USASOC flight detachment, they had a Black Hawk, they had a UV-20 Porter, they had these 5 CASA 212 aircraft, and a C-12 that they take the USASOC commander around in. And then they said, and we'll give you a fixed-wing transition. And I'm like, oh, really?
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, shiny object.
Let's go to Bragg. so I get PCS to Bragg in 2007 and get thrown in a place called DSOA, Director of Special Operations Aviation. That element for USASOC oversaw the 160th. And so I got to meet a bunch of 160th guys on that staff. I got to meet, our special mission guys that I dealt with. I dealt with my old unit.
Right.
And another special mission unit that did other stuff that we oversaw all of that. And that was my first big headquarters.
Right.
Working at it, working with General John Mulholland.
Did you like it?
I loved it because, again, any job, I'm going to bust in there and bust my ass on. And it was a big, eye-opening experience dealing with the Pentagon, working with force design updates. It was pretty incredible. And then on the flying side, they said, oh, what do you want to fly? I'm like, well, I flew Blackhawks. I flew they don't have Cow Warriors. I'm going to fly the fixed wing. I haven't done that before. So go to Fort Rucker for the fixed wing multi-engine course. And when I compared the 2 aircraft that were on the choice, one was the C-12. I'm like, I looked at their mission set. They repositioned the aircraft from the hangar to the red carpet at flight base ops. The general gets in it. They fly IFR as fast as they can to DC, or they fly down south to SOCOM to Tampa. And you're doing IFR the whole time. It's autopilot. And then you're sitting on the ground waiting for them to get done with their meetings, and then you fly back.
Right.
But you're out of the office all day long because it's a long-winded thing. And then the CASA 212. Oh, VFR, dirt landings. It was a heavy aircraft, so it was another type rating. And then you're doing parachute operations, bundle drops, you're supporting SWIC, all the SF groups, the Black Daggers, flying in to Notre Dame and jumping them in and then going to the game afterwards. I'm like, I think I'm going to take that mission. It was so much fun. And then doing all the dirt landings and whatnot. Then about halfway through that assignment, one of my buddies behind the fence at Bragg hit me up like, hey, we got a bunch of us retiring soon. We'd like you to be the air ops guy for this unit. And I'm like, sure. So I go through another assessment, but it was a staff assessment.
Right.
So pretty easy.
I like how you went like.
Yeah. So I get there, and literally they had a five-person air shop in their operations. The CW5, they hadn't had a commission guy in there in a while. The CW5 retired, the sergeant major retired, and the master sergeant in that shop retired. They just had 2 younger E6, E7 guys left.
Right.
Pretty much gutted that section. So I get there, and again, the fun begins. Go back, deployments, doing things that the operator guys that are like, hey, we want to do this. I'm like, oh, you don't say no to those guys. You find a way to do it.
Right.
I don't know how many times, whether it was working with the Secret Service or working with JSOC or FAA, you don't tell them no.
Right.
You get to yes. And I quickly found out how easy it is to get waivers to stuff that no one else could. It's impossible to do, but no, it's not. It's not impossible. It's the way you craft it. And so I learned some better strategic, and I did a little bit at USASOC before I went there, but that place, I had to do a lot of it. And, you run into, that unit would go into all these geographic command places, and staff guys that outrank you are telling you no, and like, all right, we'll see about that. You just type it up, send it up to the command, and we get the yes.
And it's networking, right? It's knowing the right people to talk to.
It is.
Because you know that if you're talking, if you've worked with someone or they've worked with you, or you have that connection, and you can go to that person because that individuals can give that stamp of approval. You're not doing through all this red tape bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was a fun assignment until a general contacted me and said, hey, we need a special operations aviator planner at Special Operations Command Pacific. All this stuff with countering China and all this is all heating up, and we need a guy on the staff there. And I'm like, Hawaii? I didn't think I could get to Hawaii. Sure, I'll go there. And my best friend that I met at the Naval War College, he was getting ready to take battalion command there. And so I'm like, yeah, my best friend's there, Hawaii, let's do it. So we get out to Hawaii, and wife wasn't really a fan of it. My daughter really wasn't a fan of it. And I'm like, oh, here we go again. And my daughter's a teenager now.
Oh, boy,
I had to deal with all of that.
Yeah.
People that go to Hawaii, they either love it or they hate it. They can't wait to get off that rock. They get that island fever. And my daughter was going to a school, had a really hard time making friends, and she's a haole from the mainland, and she did not like it.
Yeah.
And our marriage just really steep dive downhill. One of my first meetings at that headquarters, I replaced a Navy SEAL to be the Southeast Asia Regional Engagements Branch Chief, and he goes, oh, it's great, dude, man. I go surfing every morning. I come in the office about 9, and I'm gone by 2. And I go home, and I'm like, man, look at this. It's going to be a great assignment. You're not going to deploy anywhere. I'm going to have lots of time off.
Yeah. I'll be home for breakfast.
Yeah. The CG saw I had the JSOC background. He did too. And he's like, Pete, I need you to go to the Philippines. You're going to be the Chief of Staff of JSOTF, Joint Special Operations Task Force Philippines. I'm like, yes, sir. Supposed to be 4 months, ends up being 10, and my wife had it up to here at that time. She was so pissed off, promising this. She's in a place she didn't want to be, and I was gone all that time. That was a very rewarding assignment as well, even though it was an imminent danger kind of place. Watching the Special Forces and going back to my roots, doing that unconventional warfare, foreign internal defense, training, advise and assist the Filipinos to get after these bad guys that are. In fact, we deployed to Afghanistan before we deployed to we deployed to the Philippines after 9/11 before we even went to Afghanistan. A lot of people don't know that. Operation Enduring Freedom, Philippines. A U.S. citizen couple got their heads lopped off by the terrorists there, and we sent a Joint Special Operations Task Force there. And, we had a lot of restrictions on, we had to go through our partners, but it was the typical perfect SF mission that you train for your whole life. And then I was fortunate enough, their Pentagon version was up in Manila.
Right.
And so the commander, the sergeant major, the J2, and the J3, 4 of our senior guys, were up there 5 days a week dealing with all the headquarters and all the special operations units were up there. They would deploy into theater, into our joint operations area for their deployment, and then they'd send them in and out. I was the senior guy on the ground, so it was my first taste of like being in command, if you will, with this large JOA. We had 13 different austere locations where we had Green Berets and SEALs and civil affairs and PSYOP guys and a bunch of cyber dudes. And it was fun traveling around, you know, like a commander. And so that was my first taste of a big scale thing like that. They gave us a lot of latitude, which I really appreciate from the commander about, you know, having alcohol. You know, normally you have a general order saying you can't do stuff. We had team nights. I got him to trust me doing it. We did our first ever dining in where, you know, we had booze and everything there at it. So everyone loved me for getting them the opportunity to enjoy on a deployment type of thing that you never get in some of these other theaters. Yeah. Unless you're attached to OGAs that have their own bars. Yeah. Yeah. So that was a great assignment. And then when I got back, I was the chief of Kern Ops at SOCPAC. And
so how many years did you end up doing? Total?
Three there. And then that's when I filed for divorce. It was during that assignment in Hawaii. And before that happened, I asked my ex-wife now, where do you guys want to go? They said, we want to go to Bragg. That's where my daughter had all her friends up to that, you know, prior to that assignment. Yeah. So I'm like, all right, let's go to Bragg. So we go to Bragg, and I get assigned to Joint Special Operations Command, JSOC. Yeah. They're in the JOC, where everything's happening, you know, around the world. Yeah. And a lot of fun, a lot of long hours again, doing staff stuff. And but before I got there, my last 10 days in Hawaii, I get invited to a house for a dinner party, and I meet my future wife.
I was just going to say, is that where you met your wife?
No intention. I wanted to be a single man. I've been chained down for 24 years.
Chained down.
24 years. When I divorced my ex, my daughter pretty much wrote me off. She wouldn't talk to me. She wouldn't return emails. She blocked my calls. And even when she got ready to graduate from high school, you know, went to her graduation, I don't want you here. She would not take any pictures with me afterwards. It was real and she's my only blood. Right. I was going through some really hard times during that last year. But going back to this lady I met, my last few days before I left, I put my car on the dash and pick my car up in Long Beach and drive to Fort Bragg. And we could not hang up the phone with each other. We'd talk 8, 10, 12, 14 hours a day. Yeah. And we did that for like 4 months. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to come back to Hawaii to really visit you. Yeah. And every month from then on, I'd bring her to North Carolina. I'd go to Hawaii. We met in Vegas. My parents had their 50th wedding anniversary, and she met my family for the first time. Right. And I was like going back thinking through, I'm like, oh man, the single life, I really don't want that. Right. And she is just amazing. And it was a tough thing. I was up for promotion again. And she's like, I don't know if I could do 3 years. I got 4 dogs, this and that. And I'm like, you know, I started looking at retirement, disability, although my ex gets 42% of my retirement for the amount of years we were married.
Is that forever?
Yeah, forever. Even if she remarries. Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah, gut punch. But I didn't care. I found an amazing woman. I didn't care about the finance side. Lost, you know, over $500,000 in that divorce. And, that was tough financially, but no money for my happiness. I was miserable.
Well said.
Miserable. Miserable. And
now look at you.
Look at me now.
You're on a cruise ship.
Oh my God! But that was a hard thing
with your wife
about turning down promotion and putting in for retirement. Because that's all I'd known since 1985, and here it's 2016. Is
that when you retired? 2016.
Yeah, 2016.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm sorry, 2015. Yeah, 2015 I retired.
What, 20 years total?
Yeah, I know, 29.
Oh, yeah. No.
Yeah.
We said that earlier, actually, yeah.
So I retire. I move in with her in Hawaii. I'm like, yep, that's where I'm going for retirement.
Yeah.
And I kind of knew, going through the transition from the Army, I'm like, oh, what am I going to do now? Am I going to fly? Am I going to go? What am I going to do? So I hit the easy button, defense contractor, sock pack, signed up. Did that for about 4 years, was a site lead, program manager, making really good money, 6 figures plus, making really good money, making ends meet there. And then I have a friend hit me up looking for a place to have a wedding. I'm like, what? A wedding? I ended up having so much fun planning this guy's wedding in my backyard. Because I have a beautiful backyard right on Kaneohe Bay with mountain, bay, ocean views. Could put 70 people on this lanai. I said, just use my backyard. It was so much fun. I quit that job at Sockpack and started a wedding business. So I became an entrepreneur at that time. Total change to everything I was doing.
29 years later, back, I'm in the business world.
Yeah. And now I'm an officiant. I marry people. I'm a photographer. I'm a musician. I'm a wedding planner. I'm a wedding coordinator.
I fucking love it.
Having a blast.
Having a blast.
And working with my wife.
Yeah.
Working at home. We took a whole month and a half off and go on cruises. Entrepreneur is like the best job in the world.
Yeah.
If you can make ends meet.
And the cool part about that story is like the people that you're marrying that don't know you have no idea the person that's marrying them or the story that even, you're sharing on this podcast, but like you're sharing this much. But
Right.
to think that you're able to marry someone and they're like, oh yeah, this guy, he was in the Army or something. I'm not really sure, but he has it's a really cool venue, but they have no idea of all the shit you've went through to get to where you are today.
Yeah. No, it's interesting.
What a journey.
And then the other stuff I started doing is all the nonprofit stuff.
Yeah.
Special Forces Association, American Legion, Veteran Foreign Wars.
Yeah.
All these guys to give back.
Yeah, when I got this paper printed out, I've got like 5 pages on you.
Yeah,
And one of the pages, and it's small print too. It's all your organizations and groups that you're part of, and I'm like,
I'm a president or treasurer, vice
of
president
everything,
of all
of all of them. Yes, of that.
My wife hates that.
Yeah.
Because you do so much for them. What about me? But so I'm oh yes, honey. And I'm on my 7-year itch right now. Yeah. They're like, okay, honey. And now I'm planning cruises. Oh man.
Listen, we've had you here for a little while. I know you're extremely busy because you did put all of this shit together. And by the way,
that's a whole different story.
Right. I mean, we can keep talking. I got time. I don't have anywhere to be.
Well, that one is it's a very unique story. Because 2 years ago, I'm the president of the chapter out in Hawaii. 2 years ago, when we were in the convention in Colorado Springs, the Special Forces Association always has a 2-year plan where they're going to go to the next convention. They had Indianapolis for the next year, but no one for 2 years ago, two years away. And I talked to the president, Kevin Harry. I'm like, hey, and I heard all the issues that they had in that Colorado Springs one, and I'm like, what about a cruise? You don't have lodging issues. You don't have alcohol issues. You don't have lodging issues. You don't have entertainment issues.
Self-contained.
It's all there. And so I planted that seed. And he'd been involved with other like chapters going on cruises before, but nothing big like that.
I mean, because we have the whole ship, though.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So Indianapolis comes the next year. There's nobody. This is 2023, mind you. 2024, no one planned. I go back as the chapter president. Hey, guys, what do you think about us hosting the convention? And my old times, the last one we did in Hawaii was 1978. And it's because people canceled at the last minute and we lost a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it's a long way to travel. It's expensive, everything there. And the active members of my chapter wasn't really that high at that time. So I'm like, okay, not doing it. So I go to Indianapolis and I talk to Kevin Harry again. I'm like, the more I think about this cruise thing, how about if I bring this up at the general membership meeting, and I, as the Chapter 8, we will be the first time ever chapter in charge of this thing that's never been done before.
Right.
Because normally everyone does stuff in that city that they live in and support it and have the people and organizations and relationships and all of that already. I had none of that.
Right.
We've never had a national committee group.
Right.
So I literally right away had to build a
team.
some volunteers to help me out.
Yeah.
And I've done a bunch of cruises, so
Yeah.
I'm really familiar with that. And I thought, oh, this is going to be easy. Everything's on the ship and so on and so forth. And
Then you meet me in the parking lot.
yeah, that's right. That's right.
How do I get on?
We went to bat to recruit, and Carnival Cruise Lines, SFLI wasn't the concept I was looking at. I was looking at doing the same thing I did with hotels here.
Right.
I signed a contract with them, but my money and my name wasn't on there to say, oh, you don't fill 20 or 100 rooms.
Right.
You got to pay for that. I wasn't going to sign any document. I got every hotel to allow me to put a suspense cutoff date, and we filled it up like that.
Yeah.
Same thing with the cruise. I was going to do the same thing. But then Kevin Harry and SFLI came up and said, hey, we'll take this on. No financial commitment from the SFA. And I'm like, whew, that was a big load off of my plate right there that they did.
We had planes flying over, people parachuting out.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
no, this is incredible what we put together here.
Yeah.
I went full court press, and then I'm like, I don't want this just to be a Special Forces Association event. I call this a global gathering of Green Berets.
Yeah.
We're doing something we've never done before. Let's do something else that we've never done and invite any Green Beret of any era, whether you're an SFA member or not,
Yeah.
to come on this cruise. It's going to be epic.
Yeah.
We reached out to magazines of all the veteran organizations out there to advertise, because we have Green Berets that aren't in the SFA that are part of the VFW, American Legion.
Yeah.
And we hit millions of people out there telling them about it. We hit all of our benevolent organizations. I hit up all the commands. And Carnival Airlines,
Carnival Cruise. Yeah.
Carnival Cruise said this is the fastest a charter cruise has ever sold this amount of cabins. They were floored. They got more excited about it day by day. The Carnival president, father-in-law is a Green Beret, military family. Hey, give them whatever they need to do that. And when we came on this ship in August to do a pre-deployment site survey kind of thing of it, Carnival bent over backwards to do stuff. So that's the beautiful thing of chartering a ship, is we own the theater. We can say what we want to do. Where I polled people.
I mean, we're in the Green Beret room right now.
Yeah.
Which has been renamed.
Renaming drinks, renaming.
It's the Rex Lounge.
Yes.
If anyone else has ever been on the ship, it's actually the Green Beret Lounge.
And
everyone knows it.
all the work.
Yeah.
I haven't added up the emails. I know I did 35, IPRs, 35 meetings with my committee, planning for this thing, doing things that they've never done, and not just stuff on the ship. We've planned stuff before we got on the ship in Tampa. While on the ship, not just the Carnival stuff, we have all kinds of symposiums and vendors coming in and SF-related businesses. We want to showcase the coffee makers, the beer makers, the wine makers, the whiskey makers. We have 7 decades of guys on the ship.
Yeah.
And it's almost the second time in my life that I'm proud of bringing this together in the love, appreciation, and watching people interact. And said, man, I brought that together. Fuck it.
Well done.
And I don't know if it's ever going to happen again, but, we make money. If we, the AAR that I do at the end of this, I already know it's going to be, people are telling me, let's do this every year.
Yeah.
And so, not just for our association, but we may look, I always think big. I'm like,
Right.
all right, what about an RSOF one? Let's bring in the Rangers and the 160th and the Civil Affairs. Let's get a bigger ship.
Yeah.
Let's do a joint SOF. Let's bring in the Navy SEALs and all these foundations and associations and bring them all together, because it's the camaraderie of the brotherhood.
Yeah.
And the stories that you hear, and that not everyone writes a book, not everyone makes a movie. And one of my favorite pictures on this cruise so far was a father pointing at the wall, explaining about the story. And a lot of the guys, and that was what I was hoping for. I was hoping guys would come out here for vacation. Generations, grandkids, making a reunion, because they don't talk about it. And the kids are seeing what a freaking hero their father is. And it makes me so happy to be a big part of this. And even before the cruise, you know, I'm a workaholic and I'm an outside the box thinker. We had 2 hurricanes come through, Helene and Milton. And the things that I've been able to do with this database and the number of lives we've saved over the last 3 weeks, and I'm still doing it on the boat actually, on a bunch of signal threads, helping coordinate logistics and air and stuff to save lives. Because we have the people, they have the background, comms, engineers, medics, people that have can-do attitudes, and I'm able to pull up on a map where they're all at, and I'm able to get with all these different organizations and help synchronize something that I don't think the SFA has ever done either.
Yeah.
And with tons of other nonprofits bringing in helicopter supplies and literally saving lives while we're doing this. And I've been telling the story on the ship, and people are like, wow, you have this team house and you can communicate and flatten and worldwide support. And I said, that's Special Forces for life. Yeah. And I've been telling them, that's another story too, is even beyond life. We're here for your spouse. We are here for your family. Yeah. And this is probably one of the best things that's ever happened. And it was a lot of work, but man, the satisfaction I'm getting every hour of every day here. Yeah.
I mean, it's truly everyday GSD.
Oh, you know,
at the highest level.
You know,
at the highest level.
Yeah.
Yeah. I said I wasn't going to get emotional.
I know. Yeah, me too. But I can't help it with the tears, the smiles, the hugs, the laughter, the stories.
Tears of joy.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone, doesn't matter what group they were in. There's a lot of, guys give each other, first group, I was in 7th group, and they all cut on each other. But that brotherhood, forever, alive and well.
Yeah, 100%.
And the families are included.
Yeah.
This isn't just the guys getting together and having beers. We have things for the spouses to do, and they're right there in the mix of it. And, it's they're gonna probably wish it was more than 5 days.
Yeah, it's awesome, and being invited to come on personally, like I'm having an absolute blast, and it's like I can see it. And when you say the brotherhood, it's like you can't explain it.
No. That's why we wanted you on here. I tried to get Fox News on here. I tried to get the Jedburgh because these guys deserve to tell their story. Yeah. And I don't know how many guys, at least 24 in the last 3 years, that have passed away, and me helping their family deal with it. They weren't really prepared for it.
Right.
Their story wasn't told.
Right.
So I've gone around kind of doing what you're doing here for my own chapters out in Hawaii, videotaping their stories and capturing that. And then some of them have relics that they're like, hey, no one in my family wants this. They don't appreciate it. They don't know about it.
They don't know. They don't understand.
And they're like giving it to me, and I'm talking to museums and trying to do other 100%. Things. It's just, I'm so grateful that you guys are out here on this ship to interview folks like me and all these just amazing Americans that have put it out there.
Yeah,
that
100%.
One more quick vignette. I was sitting at a table at one of we call them Pauhanas. We do them every month, and we pick a different place to do it. And I invite all Green Berets on the island. And I was floored one day looking around at people that were in the same room with us at this restaurant. And they're eating and drinking and doing their thing. And I'm sitting here at a table. And not just, my background. The guy to my right, 94-year-old, MACV SOG, Distinguished Service Cross, SOCOM's trying to get it upgraded to Medal of Honor. The guy over here was one of the first crisis response guys that set up this first Special Forces group, retired colonel. The guy over across from me was an early Ranger and then became Special Forces. But while he was a Ranger, he was the driver for Colonel McKnight on the ground convoy during Somalia, and all the stuff that he went through on that. The next guy to the left of me was one of the plank holders of Delta Force, and has had 9. He's my guest speaker for our banquet. A good friend of mine. He's a fellow chapter president in our Special Forces Association. We break a lot of bread together. He spent you know, you have some Vietnam guys that do multiple tours. This guy did 9 years. 9 years in Afghanistan. 9 years. Most of it is a contractor. He's just giving and giving and giving.
Crazy.
Those are the kind of people in this community. And I could go down the table, left and right.
Yeah.
These guys out here
Yeah.
don't know, don't appreciate. And these guys are just silent heroes. There's all these different stories. Everybody's got a story.
Yeah.
And
And
that's why I'm so grateful that you're here
Yeah.
to pull some of that from some of these guys.
Thank you, and I appreciate it. I do have a little gift for you because you truly are an everyday GSDer. So it's a little token of our appreciation for you being on the show.
Awesome.
Everyday GSD.
Love it. I love the patriotic colors of it,
Yes,
too.
red, white, and blue, baby. Red,
Yeah,
white, and blue.
brother.
But thank you for being on the show. You're awesome. But one last thing to leave the audience. What would you say for them to get shit done? What would be one statement or one thing you can tell them to do in the everyday GSD lifestyle that you can portray on them?
There's no excuses.
No excuses.
Whether you need to get out and walk and move because you're old, like I'm getting there, and
No excuses.
sit in a desk, get out and walk. There's organizations. There's always people in need, and we're America. We help each other. We lift each other up. And
Well said.
no excuses to not volunteer your time. It doesn't have to be a military. It could be American Red Cross. There's so many great benevolent organizations out there that you can help others and make a change in people's lives.
You're awesome, Pete. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm excited for the rest of the trip.
Oh.
I know there's so much fun stuff that's going to happen on this
There
cruise.
is.
Thank you, brother. I
Yeah,
appreciate
brother.
you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Great to be on the show.